All right, let's jump right into this. There's this really powerful idea that life, it's constantly talking to us. It's offering up guidance, wisdom, answers to all the big questions we have. The world itself is basically our greatest teacher. But the real question is, are we even showing up for class? And really, this single sentence is the heart of this whole thing. It's one of those truths that's so simple, but so profound. All those answers we're desperately looking for about our jobs, our relationships, our purpose in life? Well, they aren't hidden away in some secret place. They're right here. They're literally woven into the fabric of our everyday lives. But that's the big challenge, isn't it? I mean, if the answers are all around us, why do so many of us feel so lost so often? Well, it turns out there's something that's constantly getting in the way, something that makes it almost impossible to hear. So let's get into what the problem really is. See, it's not that the world is silent, not at all. It's that we are just way too loud. We get so wrapped up in our own internal chatter, that endless monologue in our heads, that we completely drown out everything else. And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures where all that noise comes from. We get lost in our own stories, right? Our problems, our worries, our big plans for the future, they become so huge in our minds, so all-consuming, that they're literally the only thing we can hear. You can almost feel the tension on this slide, can't you? It's like on one side, you've got our anxiety just broadcasting on full blast. You got to impress them. What if you totally fail? But on the other side, the world is just quietly whispering these simple truths like, hey, just be here now, or connection is what really matters. It's like we're broadcasting on this loud, frantic, staticky frequency, while the real answers are on a calm, quiet, steady channel we're not even tuned into. Okay, so how does the world actually teach us then? How do we switch channels and tune into that quieter frequency? Well, let's look at one of the most powerful and honestly relatable examples out there. Something the world shows us every single day: the lesson of friendship. So think about this story about Jamie Dungy. This was a guy who he didn't care about status or popularity. He wasn't thinking about what people could do for him. He was just naturally drawn to people who looked like they could use a friend. Simple as that. He wasn't trying to climb some social ladder or play a game. Nope, he picked his friends for one reason and one reason only. He genuinely liked being around them. That's it. He wasn't running some strategy or playing a social game. He was just connecting with people, human to human. And by doing that, by tuning out his own internal noise, that pressure to be popular, to be strategic, he was actually able to hear the world's lesson about what really matters. He learned that real, true connection, it has nothing to do with what you can gain. It's all about genuine presence. And this isn't some kind of trick or life hack, right? It's a fundamental principle the world shows us over and over again. This isn't a tactic for networking. It's the actual recipe for authentic relationships. Just think about it. Every real friendship you've ever had proves this is true. The world has already given you the answer. All right, so how do we actually apply this? How do we turn this idea into something we can practice in our own lives? Because here's the thing, listening, in this sense, isn't a passive thing. It's a really active, intentional way of showing up in the world. And that really gets to the heart of it. Listening isn't just about your ears. It's about a huge shift in priorities. It means choosing to be present over trying to perform. It means valuing connection more than strategy and authenticity more than control. It's really about letting go of that need to manage every single outcome. The world teaches us that incredible things don't happen because we force some huge, impossible goal. No, they happen when we just quietly focus on what's necessary right in front of us. You start there, then you do what's possible. And before you know it, you look up and you're doing the impossible. We're always trying to jump straight to the end, and then we wonder why we fall on our face. And this idea applies to literally everything. Take the mindset of a great golfer. Their goal isn't to control the wind or the way the ball's going to bounce. That's impossible. Their only job is to be totally present for each individual shot. True performance, whether you're on a golf course or just living your life, comes from that kind of focus, from being present, not from desperately trying to control every little thing. And look, there are some pretty serious consequences when we don't listen. Peter Drucker was talking about big organizations here, but man, it's just as true for us as individuals. When we refuse to listen to what our life is trying to teach us, we don't end up with more freedom. Not at all. We end up creating our own internal tyranny, a dictatorship of anxiety, self-criticism, and this constant, exhausting need for control. And this really brings us to the most important part of this whole journey. It's realizing that the answers, they aren't just floating around out there somewhere. They're being revealed right here in the patterns and the experiences of your own life, right this very second. I mean, this quote says it all, right? No matter where you go, there you are. You just can't escape the curriculum that your life is trying to teach you. You can change jobs, you can change cities, you can change partners, but you always bring yourself and all your patterns with you. The lessons are just going to keep repeating until you finally stop and listen. So the real key here is to start looking at these repeating patterns not as a source of frustration, but as a lesson that's just patiently waiting for you to hear it. You know that same conflict that keeps popping up at work, or that feeling of emptiness you get even after a big success? That's not bad luck. That's your curriculum. That is the world speaking directly to you. And you know what? The world also speaks to us through the imbalances we feel. So many of us get obsessed with the grind, all about output, work, writing, producing. And we totally forget that we also need input. We need to read, to live, to experience. You can't only speak, you have to listen. You can't only produce, you have to receive. That burnout you're feeling, that's a message. It's allowed. So here's a question for you. Will you actually feel more? Will you start paying attention to your real experience, to what your body and your gut are telling you, instead of just getting lost in your own theories about how things should be? Because the world speaks through our feelings. And will you balance the grind? Will you finally hear the message that your burnout has been screaming at you? Will you remember that your life is so much more than just your work, and that your value as a person has absolutely nothing to do with your output? What about this one? Will you tell someone you love them? Will you take those tiny daily opportunities the world gives you to connect with people, to be real, to just be present? Or are you going to let them slip by, drowned out by the noise of your own to-do list? Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. The world has been answering you all along. The answers about what really matters, about who you are, about what you're supposed to do next, they're all around you, woven into the very texture of your life. The only real question left is, will you finally listen?